marriage is a social and legal institution that has long been a component of human civilization. It is a union between two people who want to build a lifetime partnership and, in many cultures, raise a family together. Marriage practices, traditions, and legal laws can change greatly among civilizations and historical periods due to historical progressions, cultural diversity, and legal aspects. In this project, we will discuss about child marriage. Child marriage is a devastating and deeply ingrained practice that happens around the world, particularly in areas with high level of poverty, limited access to education, and a lack of knowledge of human rights. Child marriage is the marriage of children who are commonly classified as individuals under the age of 18. However, particular age limitation differ by region and culture.
Now, I am going to explain about or review about a literature review that we takes from case study that related to our topic, which is child marriage. So for the first point of our case study is social and cultural norms. As stated by Professor Datuk Nur Azia on 2018, this is the practice of pedliki, which entails marrying a very young children, sometimes before they are even born. According to her also, social norms and value encourage the practice of a child marriage, as it maintains and ensures familial and community acceptance. Next, according to Santia 2009, girls who enter into a marriage before the age of 19 will face a higher risk of experiencing intimate partner violence compared to those who marry at a later stage in life. Next is poverty. According to Kohno 2019, when girls enter into marriage, they typically move out of their family home. Next point is also Santia from 2009, stated that families think arranging a marriage with a reputable family not only forge social connection between tribes or clans, but also elevates the social status of the parents.
Hi, my name is Celia and I'll be explaining about the second part of the literature review, which is child marriage, a child rights issue. The six articles that we reviewed stated that early marriage has severe consequences for young girls, particularly in terms of their rights to education. Families often withdraw their daughters from school, believing that further education is unnecessary when their primary role is seen as marriage and childbearing. As per Siska et al. 2020 mentioned that research shows that 78% of children stop attending school after getting married. Hin 2017 also mentioned that dropping out means missing crucial knowledge and life skills needed to thrive in the modern world. This leads to lower further earnings, increased risk of poverty, and limited economic opportunities. According to Professor Datuk Summit 2018, early marriage isolates girls from broader society and not attending school further exacerbates this isolation, limiting their participation in society and community affairs, including political activities. Furthermore, early pregnancies often result in school dropout, especially for girls from disadvantaged backgrounds and rural communities, as stated by Rambi et al. 2018. According to Satya 2009, dealing with pregnancy and early motherhood can be incredibly challenging, often causing girls to abandon their education goals. This problem is exacerbated in areas lacking healthcare, social support, and education resources. The deprivation of education due to early marriage not only negatively impacts individual girls, but also has broader society consequences, hindering economic progress and social advancement. For the second part of the literature review under child marriage, a child rights issue is the right to the enjoyment of the higher attainable standard of health. Parents often believe that marrying their daughters at a young age will protect them from HIV or AIDS. but this risk is often attributed to husbands who have prior sexual partners or engage in polygamous relationships. Additionally, early marriage leads to elevated risk during pregnancy and childbirth, as girls aged 15 to 19 have twice the risk of complication, as stated by Paul and Moses 2016. Factors such as small reproductive organs can lead to tears and severe bleeding during childbirth. Emotional tolls also plague young brides' pressure into reproduction, often leading to isolations and depressions. Infant mortality rates are 60% higher if the mother is below 18 years old, and complications from pregnancy and childbirth are the leading causes of death among girls aged 15 to 19 in developing countries, as stated by the United Nations 2018. This grim reality highlights the urgent needs to address the impacts of child marriage on both young girls and their infants. For the last part of the literature review will be the strategies to prevent child marriage. From the 6 articles that we reviewed, we found that economic empowerment through skills training, microcredit programs, and job placement service is key in areas where poverty is linked to child marriage. Government, donor agencies, and individuals can establish vocational centers and offers incentives for continued education to effectively delay early child marriage, as stated by Paul and Moses 2016 and Persiska et al. 2020. And also, promoting girls' education, especially the secondary levels, is crucial in combating child marriage. As stated by Paul and Moses 2016, government should allocate substantial resources to ensure access to quality education, addressing facilities, teaching quality, curriculum relevance, and extracurriculum opportunities. Creating safe learning environment, tackling gender-based violence, and providing necessary amenities like sanitation facilities are essential, as according to HIN 2017. Financial incentives and scholarship programs can help alleviate economic barriers for families, making higher education more accessible to all, as stated by HIN 2017.
Now I will be presenting about research methodology. In our effort to combat child marriage, we harness the power of quantitative research methodology. Utilizing Google Forms and multiple choice questions, we conducted a comprehensive survey among UTP students through WhatsApp. The real-time analysis allows us to swiftly adapt, enhancing our insight for meaningful societal change. Our study, rooted in meticulous data collection and analysis, aims to make a significant contribution to the fight against child marriage.
All right, thank you to the previous speaker. So here are the data analysis. So our data is gathered through a quantitative method through a questionnaire or online survey. The survey about child marriage was conducted on 30 UTP students. 60% of them are male and 40% are female. So from the respondents, the majority of the respondents believe Islam as their main religion, with 63.3%. Christianity being at 16.7%. Buddhists are 13.3% of the respondents, and Hinduism are held as a belief by 6.67% of the respondents. So for our first data point, the pie chart shows the age group of the typical victims of child marriage. And from the data, it is believed that 46.7% of cases involve children under the age of 12, with 30% involving those around 12 or 15 years old, 16.7% involve those 16 to 18-year-old, and 6.7% involve those aged 19 to 21. This data underscores the prevalence of child marriage and basically raises concerns about the legal framework of marriage in Malaysia, since people are able to take advantage of the loopholes and, well, marry those who are much further under the legal age of Malaysia, which is 18 for men and 16 for women. So our next data point talks about education. specifically whether or not child brides or grooms are able to finish their education. From the study, it is shown that 86.67 or 26 respondents believe that no, child brides are not able to finish their education, which makes sense since the previous data point showed that most of the victims of child marriage are those who are under 12 years old. However, there are 13.3% or 4 respondents who believe that they can finish their education. This can mainly be backed up by the fact that financial support or assistance may help them finish their education. So our next data point talks about geography, whether or not child marriage is more prevalent in rural or urban areas. From our data, 76.7 or 23 individuals believe that child marriage is more prevalent in rural areas, which may highlight that financial issues or limited access to education being a factor in the prevalence of child marriage. 10% believe it happens equally in rural or urban areas, while 10% are uncertain about this prevalence, highlighting the need for more awareness and education about the topic, showing that it's much more complex than it seems to be. Our next data point talks about the victim's gender, specifically if it has a primary target, whether girls, boys, or whether or not it exists at all. So the majority of respondents, 63.3% or 19 people, agree that girls are the primary victim of child marriage, with 30% believing that there is no bias, that both boys and girls are targeted equally, and 66.7 or 2 respondents thinking that boys are primarily affected. The absence of people who think that neither gender are targeted shows that there is definitely a gender bias in child marriage, specifically towards girls, which means we need to focus our education and awareness efforts more towards girls. And let's move on to the next data point. So next we'll talk about awareness and action against child marriage. A majority of the respondents, 73.3% or 22 individuals, believe that there is insufficient awareness and action against child marriage, while 23.3% or 7 people believe that there is efforts going on to quell child marriage, but it is not enough. This suggests that both global and local efforts to address the issue have not been successful. So in order to tackle child marriage effectively, it is essential for Malaysian government and for organizations like ASEAN to shed more light and invest more time into prevention and awareness efforts, especially considering the statistics that we got. So the presence of unsure respondents also highlight the need for a comprehensive education and outreach program to engage society in addressing this critical issue. More on that later. Next, we'll look at the factors that cause child marriage in the first place. Now, the respondents' opinions on this are pretty mixed. The leading view held by 33.3% or 10 people is that poverty and economic hardship basically drove families to marry off their daughters in order to ease their financial burdens. Meanwhile, 30% or 9 respondents attribute child marriage to deep-rooted cultural, traditional, or even religious beliefs. While 20% or 6 people suggest that limited access to education could contribute to diminishing awareness towards the issue. Gender inequality, is also seen as a factor, as 16.7 or 5 respondents believe so. This diversity of opinions show that it's a multifactorial issue, or in layman's terms, it is a very complex issue, which highlights the need for a more comprehensive intervention strategy and further in-depth analysis to address child marriage effectively in the Malaysian society. Next, we'll talk about religious influence, or how child marriage can be attributed to each religion. So from our respondents, 43.3% believe that religion is the central factor behind child marriage, or that it's simply the norm within their religion. While 33% believe it's closely intertwined with their cultural practices, and another 20% believe that religious leaders play a significant role in influencing the public perspective towards child marriage. And these show the importance of addressing both religious and cultural dimensions of child marriage, which means that we can also engage religious institutions in promoting reforms to combat child marriage more effectively. There's also a call for a more inclusive approach to address different religious texts and traditions as suggested by 1 or 3.3 respondents. Let's move on. So now let's talk about the effects of child marriage, specifically on women's education. So the consensus of the respondents is quite overwhelming, with 96.7% or 29 respondents all agree that girls who are victims of child marriage are going to have a negative impact on their education, which means they'll more likely drop out of school or educational institutions. There is, however, an outlier of one respondent, which shows that this could be just an extreme case, but we do need further research on the topic to fully understand the implications of child marriage on girls' education. Next, we'll be talking about government initiatives in combating child marriage. Respondents have diverse views on this topic, with a significant portion of them, 36.7%, or 11 individuals, believe that strict enforcement of laws will prevent child marriage effectively. Another 30% of respondents, or 9 people, emphasize the importance of promoting girls' education in reducing child marriage, while another 30%, 9 people of them, believe that awareness campaigns highlighting negative consequences will have the same effect. There is only one person, or 3.33%, that suggests that providing financial assistance to families in order to keep their daughters in school is one of the methods that government should do. The diversity of opinions suggests that we do need a more multifaceted approach to address child marriage effectively. Now let's talk about the economic factor contributing towards child marriage in certain communities. Now, a majority of respondents, or 56.7%, or 17 individuals, believe that extreme poverty and lack of resources are the primary economic factor driving child marriage. And this can be seen from our previous data point, where rural areas are the number one hotspot for child marriage. Now, 20%, or 6 respondents, believe that limited employment opportunities are the primary economic factor, with 6.7%, or 2 people, believe that dowry or financial transactions in which families sell off their daughters in order to be uplifted financially are the main cause or economically towards child marriage. There is 16.7%, or 5 respondents, that believe all the mentioned before are the primary economic factors in certain communities, which just shows that we need more awareness, more action, more education, especially towards this issue, at least economically. Now let's talk about the societal influence, mainly what crucial role leaders play in challenging traditional beliefs in regards to child marriage. Now, the majority of respondents, 56.7%, or 17 individuals, believe that religious leaders and institutions can significantly challenge traditional beliefs, supporting child marriage by educating, the mass. And another 36.7%, or 11 people, see political leaders and governments being pivotal in challenging these traditional beliefs, as they have the political power to outright change or amend laws in regards to child marriage. On the other hand, a total of 6.66%, or 2 respondents, each believe that business sectors and the entertainment industry can influence these beliefs, which may suggest that private sectors have limited capacity to address these traditional beliefs due to the absence of financial incentives for their shareholders. Now let's talk about the effect that child marriage has on domestic violence in Malaysia. It is clear that an overwhelming majority of us, 90%, or 27 respondents, believe that child marriage increases the rate of domestic violence in Malaysia, which could be due to the dangers exposed to the victim after their marriage. Now, a total of 10%, or 3 respondents, believe that it either has no effect on domestic violence rates, reduces it, or that it is lower among only child brides, respectively. Now, the latter 2 believe that it has the potential to reduce domestic violence rates, which could be biased due to anecdotes or simply an outlier, but we do need more research on this topic. Now let's talk about region prevalence, or basically where the respondents believe the highest prevalence of child marriage occurs. So from the pie chart, 83.3%, or 26 respondents, believe that the region of sub-Saharan Africa has the highest amount of child marriage, which could be explained due to the lack of educational infrastructures, or infrastructure in general, in the more rural parts of the region. Now, 13.3%, or 4 respondents, believe that Southeast Asia has the highest prevalence, which could be due to the cultural background of the region. Now, 3.33% of child marriage belongs to the European region, which could be an outlier or part of gender inequality of the region, or simply cultural background in some parts of it. All respondents, by inference, say that North America has the lowest prevalence in child marriage, at least compared to the other three stated before, which could be an indicative of how severe the issue of child marriage is around the globe. Now, let's talk about two things. One being the willingness of our respondents to partake in child marriage, and secondly, if they had the opportunity, would they eradicate child marriage from the face of the earth? So, for the first part, whether our respondents will be willing to partake in child marriage, thankfully, none of the 30 respondents are going to willingly engage in child marriage, either as the perpetrator or, well, being a victim. This could be indicative that tertiary level of education has exposed them to the dangers and negative consequences of child marriage. For the second part, whether they would eradicate child marriage in the world or not, an overwhelming majority of them are over 93% or 28 respondents believe that they would end child marriage if they had the chance. Surprisingly, there are 2 respondents who would not end child marriage if they had the chance, which shows how deeply rooted this problem really is. Now let's talk about individuality, or specifically whether or not child marriage is a personal choice or not. So from the pie chart, a majority of us, weirdly enough, 56.7% or 17 respondents believe that child marriage is a personal choice. 43.3% or 13 people believe otherwise. This shows a divide in the sample because people are uncertain on whether or not child marriage is a personal choice. This could be bias, or this could indicate further cultural or religion significance in the issue, which ultimately means that we need further and more in-depth research on this topic. And that is all from data analysis. I'd like to pass it on to the next speaker.
Now I will be presenting about finding and discussion. Our research emphasized the significance of awareness campaigns and understanding the economic drivers behind child marriage. The first finding is awareness. We should raise community awareness by organizing campaigns. The first one is legal implication. By educating community about legal age requirement and consequences for violating laws. Child marriage is illegal for both Muslim and non-Muslim. The next one is health risks. By raising awareness about the health risks associated with early pregnancies. The next one is societal consequences. By educating the community that child marriage is limiting child access to education. Lastly is importance of education. School and educational institutions can integrate comprehensive programs that educate students about the negative impact of child marriage. The second finding is economic driver. Understanding the economic factor driving child marriage is essential for effective strategies. The first factor is poverty and financial instability. Families resort to child marriage to overcome immediate financial burden. Overcoming poverty through economic support can help families choose education over early marriage. The next factor is cultural norm. Challenging societal expectations tied to dowries and financial stability is vital. Disrupting this norm is crucial to dismantling the economic drivers of child marriage. The last factor is gender inequality in labor market. Addressing disparities in employment opportunities is essential. Girls have limited access to skilled jobs and lower wage push families towards child marriage. Overcoming this challenge is pivotal in eradicating child marriage.
So here comes to the conclusion where this study comprehensively examines child marriage in Malaysia, dissecting its causes and consequences through literature review and online survey. Focusing on legal, social and cultural factors, the research lies on public awareness and perceptions among diverse demographics. The study aims to inform policies and interventions by providing data-driven insights. Not only that, the study also emphasizes the need for multifaceted approaches that will involve the legal reforms, social interventions, and community collaboration. Ultimately, this research acts as a catalyst for awareness, dispelling myths, and advocating for the future when every Malaysian child can grow up free. For a suggestion, we suggest that firstly, law changes where for both boys and girls, the law should be strengthened and implement the legislation establishing the minimum age of marriage is at 18 years old. Secondly, through education, where we should encourage and promote girls' education since they have a higher chance of delaying their marriage and living in a healthier lifestyle.
Next, start public awareness efforts to inform people about how dangerous it can be when child marriage at a young age and its also benefits. Fourth, change the mindset of child marriage as a long-standing tradition in many societies. And lastly, economic reasons frequently contribute to child marriage. Therefore, merely raising the marriage age may not be sufficient if families are still living in the poverty. That's all from us. Thank you. That's all from us. Thank you.